Only days after marking the 5th anniversary of the United States-led invasion of Iraq, the United States reached a tragic but inevitable milestone. It's been coming for 5 years. The death toll of 4,000 U.S. troops. 4 American soldiers were killed in roadside bombings yesterday, a day when the Green Zone was hit repeatedly by rocket and mortar fire. The ability of insurgents to attack a supposedly protected area shows just how fragile the security situation remains in Iraq. The military insists that no casualty is more or less significant than another, that each loss is equally precious, equally tragic. The White House calls it a somber moment, adding that President Bush spends time every day thinking about those who have lost their lives in the war. The president also insisted last week that he has no regrets about starting this war. It's not clear how this latest news will affect the American public or impact the presidential campaign. Both Democratic candidates have called for a timetable for U.S. troop withdrawal. John McCain says it's important to finish the fight and even suggested we could have troops in Iraq for 100 years. One expert told Reuters that the 4,000 troop death toll could trigger another wave of heated debate here at home. But other people think it won't have as much of an impact as the 3,000 mark, which came at a time when the overall situation in Iraq was seen as going badly. Meanwhile, as the war enters its 6th year, estimates of the Iraqi death toll range between 80,000 and hundreds of thousands. An estimated 2 million people have been forced to leave Iraq. Another 2.5 million people are displaced within their own country. So here's the question. How should the milestone of 4,000 U.S. troops, the deaths of them in Iraq, affect the American public? Go to CNN.com/Cafferty file where you can post a comment on my blog. The question this hour is, how should the milestone, and we passed it today, of 4,000 U.S. troop deaths in Iraq affect the American people? Jerry writes, you can bet if the great decider Bush and one-shot Cheney had children in Iraq, this worthless war would have been stopped long ago. Pardon me. Now old Bomb McCain wants to stay there for another 100 years. He shouldn't be elected dog catcher, much less president. It's hard for me to think about any more American soldiers being killed in that worthless part of the world. Linda writes, it's time for Americans to decide whether or not this is a war they really want to fight. If it is, then the draft should be reinstated so that all American families feel connected to the war and feel the worry and pain which only a few families now feel. If this is not a war which we think is worth fighting, then it's time to leave Iraq. Beverly in Texas writes, the town of Tom Bean, Texas. The American people should be sad at the loss of so many of our young people. However, as we grieve for them, let us remember that it was their choice to join the service, that they were willing to give their lives so that we could continue our lives. When you see a person in uniform, stop them and thank them for their service. That's something my dad told me I should do when I was just a kid, and I never forgot it. It's a nice thing to do. Ed in Woodbridge, Virginia writes, Jack, the war in Iraq has affected all Americans one way or another, but I'd be interested how a walk by President Bush among the headstones in Section 60 of Arlington National Cemetery, where American soldiers killed in Iraq rest in honored glory, would affect him. Bush and all the big shots on Capitol Hill who voted to give the president authority to invade Iraq will have to live with the fact this was a major blunder from the get-go, and they will have to live with it for the rest of their lives. Gary writes, last year President Bush told us to go shopping. This year we can't afford the gas to go shopping. I was in Vietnam. My son was in Iraq in 2003. We both survived. Unfortunately, 4,000 did not survive this misadventure. Sad, sad, sad. And Albert in Los Angeles writes, 4,000 troop deaths ought to make this election the most important in recent history. And people should flock to the polls for change. We can support our troops. And just like they fight for our well-being, we should fight for theirs by bringing them home. Vote smart this November.